The Amazon Synod and Married Priests. Father David Nix on February 28, 2019. Crux reports when the Synod of Bishops on the Amazon rolls around in October, the long-debated possibility of ordaining mature, married men to the priesthood in areas where there are priest shortages will be brought to the table. Ever notice that when he who St. Ignatius of Loyola calls the enemy of human nature floats propositions to men, that proposition always begins under the guise of safe, rare and legal. This is not only in matters of human life, but even in liturgical matters. Father Heilmann shows here in truth about communion in the hand while standing that Holy Communion in the hand only started in 1969 by bestowing an indult. An exception to the law. Under certain conditions. Notice how eerily similar this idea of a rare indult is to the deadly phrase of what the U.S. government once declared would be safe, rare and legal. I speak Portuguese and I've been to Brazil 3 times, including a mission on the Amazon of Brazil. As Father Taborda S.J. alludes to in the above Crux link, I too saw that many communities get confession and Holy Mass only once a year. This was usually done by a priest headed up a boat on one of the 1,000 tributaries of that sea river to bring Christ to the indigenous people of Brazil. So, what about all those poor people without the sacraments? Yes, the Amazon Synod will probably decide that for the good end of the dissemination of the sacraments, and for the good end of the poor receiving the Eucharist, which I both admit are good, we must begin the means of married priests. In fact, this is also the perfect time for this to get passed, politically speaking. This is because the Synod of Bishops in the Amazon will happen in October 2019, which is the same year, albeit months later, that we just finished the Sex Summit in Rome. I can already hear the MSM. Wouldn't marriage be a better pressure release valve for sick priests than abusing each other or seminarians or children? Again, the end justifies the means. Married priests. Soon, the safe, rare and legal option becomes the norm, and when the exception becomes the norm, then the tradition becomes the rigorous exception requiring an indult, as found in the very term, extraordinary form of the Mass. Yes, I am actually predicting that at this rate we will need an indult to stay celibate, were I not equally confident that the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary will arrive before the internal enemies of the Church have this much advance. You may notice that every time evil wants its way in the Church in the 20th or 21st century, it attempts one of these 2 theological tricks. 1. The end justifies the means. 2. It is permitted to invert the first and great commandments for pastoral reasons. For example, many priests have led married couples under conscience and pastoral reasons to use contraception, often due to medical reasons. But such priests still lead married couples to hell, despite odd modern protests by them that God would somehow honor broken human conscience more than His own divine law and divine revelation. The Amazon Synod won't be a pan-global mandate for seminaries to recruit married men. Indeed, as the article said, the Synod will first open the door for older married men to apply for holy orders. Thus, the notion of married Western priests will be protected from alarmist outrage under pious pretexts like this. Married priests will happen in rare cases of rural environments where the sacraments are greatly needed, or this will only happen with viri probati. Satan is a legalist who tells us that we would rather have the sacraments in sin, rather than holiness in the Church and holiness in the priesthood. I'm not comparing married Byzantine Catholic priests or even Russian Orthodox priests to Satan or Roe versus Wade, for I fully realize that celibacy and the priesthood are parallel events that intertwine in the West. But this intertwining also has apostolic roots of celibacy requested of our Lord to His priests from the very beginning, and this virginity for the kingdom is exactly the last vestige of priestly holiness that I predict to be sunk quietly in the Amazon River in a manner safe, rare and legal. Jesus Christ said, "For there are eunuchs who have been so from birth, and there are eunuchs who have been made eunuchs by men, and there are eunuchs who have made themselves eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. Let the one who is able to receive this receive it." Matthew 19:12. 15 verses later. Then Peter said in reply, "See, we have left everything and followed you."